Hi everyone, so in this video I'm going to share with you a trucking profit and loss statement that I sell on Etsy. So this is a very simple trucking profit and loss statement that I built. I also sell a more advanced version of this where you have a dashboard, one dashboard for the daily dashboard and annual dashboard. So if you're interested, check this listing out in the description, also the advanced version as well. I'll put the listing there. First and foremost, I want to say that this is not financial advice. This is for informational purposes only. So, if you purchase this listing on Etsy, it will come with a Google Sheet template, an Excel template. So, when you purchase this template and you download it to use, whether in Google Sheet or Excel, it will come with 5 tabs. And the very first tab that you should work on is on this tab 1. This is where you would set up all your information. So here on this yellow cell, you could update to your trucking company name. And then all these yellow cell here is where you could update to the revenue or profit and loss that is unique to your business, right? So for example, if I change this to load pay, this data will flow to all the other tabs. So I change this to load, and you can see on the income summary here, it also changed to load, and the income and expense statement, it also changed to load, right? So let me just change this back to sample so we can see, right? So that all these other tab are connected to it. So you can see this is sample, and then this is also sample. So it's very important that you start out on this tab first and change all the revenue and expenses that is particular or relevant to your business. Okay. Okay. So once you're happy with all the updating all the description to your business or relevant to your business, then you can move on to step 2. Another thing I want to mention is you can also pick the calendar year here. So if you're working on 2025, just change this to 2025. So why is this important? Because this changes the year on this income and expense. So you can see here, it starts out in January, right, all the way through December. So if you change this here to 2024, it's just looking at 2024 data. Okay. So since we're in 2025, we can change this to 2025. Okay. So after you're done setting up this information on the step 1 income and expense setup tab, then you can move on to step 2, which is the load summary. So here is where you would put in your load data. You set up your load data, the date that you got the load, the truck number. Make sure you set up this column E to have unique load number, because the way this template work is that it's associating each income and expense with a particular load. So you don't want to have two load numbers that's the same, okay? Because then you'll be doubling up your information. So just make sure that every load is unique. Okay, and then you can enter your client number. Here you can enter origin, destination, loaded, empty mile, and then you can enter in your fuel information. Anything that's gray, the column that's gray, it automatically calculates. So you don't need to enter in those information. Here you can enter in your expected payment or income for that load and expected expenses for that load. And here it will calculate the expected profit, and here's the actual profit and expense, and all that other good stuff here once you enter in more data in these other columns. So just to summarize, you can enter in data in any cell that is white. Anything that's gray, leave it alone, because it automatically calculates that for you. And then once you're done setting up the load summary, you go to the income summary tab, is where you enter in your income to that particular load. Okay, enter date, you pick the load, and then you enter in the income that you receive for that load, and it automatically summarizes it for you here in this column. And then you can enter any reimbursement that you received. Expense summary works the same way. You just enter in the date, the load number. And I want to mention is on the income and expense, sometimes this tab here or this column here, it could be hidden. It could look like this. So just leave it hidden. Make sure you don't accidentally delete data on it. You can open it if you want, because on the expense summary, it's you can open it as well, right? Or you could leave it hidden, but just make sure you don't enter in the or delete the data, because this is how this tab here uses this column to find information. Okay, so in the expense tab here, you just enter in, all the load data, the date, the load, and then the expense type, and then the amount. If you want to add description, you can. So after you're done with that, then this uh, statement here, or this tab, will pull in all the data that you have input the information. So let's do one for example. So let's say step one, I set up everything, I'm happy with this. Then I go to step two, I set up a load, right? So let's say in January this year, uh, we have a load, so I'll set it up. It's this truck number, so this one I'll just give it a load one, client, sample, LLC, and then origin. Let's say we started in Portland, Oregon, destination is Seattle, Washington. Loaded miles, let's say we have 150 loaded miles, and then the other one is about 23 empty miles. So you can see here it automatically calculate the total miles. And the truck MPG, let's say we get 10 miles per gallon, and then we paid about $4 a gallon, so you'll probably be paying $69. Okay, so your expected pay. So I'm expecting to get $3,200 for this job, this load, and my expenses are probably about $500 to this load. Okay, so here it calculates your expected net profit. This information is not populated yet because it needs the data from the income summary. Okay, so um, let's come here. So like on that 1/15/2025. Um, so this is why I said like make sure you don't delete this column or the data on here because it automatically populates the month and the year based on what you type here. Okay, so you enter the date and then we pick the load. So the load here matches whatever that you set up here. So let's say you come here and you set up another load, right? Load LL2. So you can come here and you can see it gives you two options. Okay, but we're just working with one in an example right now. Okay, so we come here and then what type of pay did you get for this load, right? Let's say I got 3,000 for the load pay, and then I get another 200 on fuel charge. So total I get 3,200. And let's say I got the reimbursement $100 for in meals. Okay, so total I get 3,300. Let's say expenses. So how do you do the expense? Same thing. You just log whichever date you got the expense. Okay, and then the load dispatch is a load number. So this is also regarding load one expense type. Um, say fuel costs. If you click on fuel costs, whatever you pick, it automatically know what that expense category is. So if you look here in the fuel cost, we put it at variable in the variable, so it knows that it's a variable expense, right? So then here, let's say we spent $70 on it, right? That's my expense, right? Well, let's do another expense. So let's say on the same date, I incur another charge regarding this load. So do that, and then so you do truck registration. Let's say $200. Okay, there you go. And you can put description or notes if you want, and then on the income expense, it will automatically pull the data and populate data, the operation information, and then you can see here we put 3,000 on the load pay for January, and fuel charge put 200, so total we had 3,200, right? And then truck registration, whatnot, and it automatically calculate what is your net inflow and outflow for the month. And here, the nice thing about it, you can filter this, right? You can see, okay, how much you make for a particular load. If you have a lot of load, you can just filter it. So that's the cool thing about this template. And if you're wondering, okay, what if it's 2026? How do I can I use it in 2026? Yes, you can. So you can leave all your 2025 data here. In 2026, just keep entering 2026 data, and come here and change this to 2026, and then this thing will automatically pull in data for 2026. So as you can see here, when we change it to 2026, everything is empty, right? Because we didn't enter in any 2026 data. But if we come in here and we enter in 2026 data, let's say I come here and enter 1 2 2026, right? And let's say, let's just do, I'm sorry, we don't need to do it here. Actually, we can do it at income. Let's say on 1/20/26. This is also the same load, and we get $5,000. So this 5,000 should show up here, right? See, there you go. So this tab here is just looking at the data based on the date. So it's very important that you enter in the date, the date for each of these load. Okay. So the last item I want to show you about this template is the cool thing about it actually is that it could associate load to a revenue expense. So you remember that in this template, we've been very particular to add a load number to each of the expense and the revenue that we record. So what is the purpose of that? The purpose of that is so that you could see at the end of your service that you've provided the service, you've done this work, how much did you actually receive for each load? So after you recorded all your actual income and expense for the load and that you've already set up the load, you can come back here. And if you scroll all the way to the right over here, you can see for the load how much money you've made. So if you look at here on this load one, because we only had one load, right? On load one, we can sit when we set it up, we expected to have $2,700 in net profit, but actually we received 3,300 in inflow in cash inflow. So these are all the cash that you receive, right? All the income that you receive regarding this loan, and also all the reimbursement that you receive. So all the cash inflow that you receive minus all the expenses that you paid out for this loan, which is fixed, variable, and all the expenses, reimbursable expenses, right? So your net profit revenue, actual revenue minus your actual expenses, is 3,030 compared to your expected profit. So here it shows you, your actual profit versus your expected profit after you've inputted in all your income expenses. So that's the neat thing about this template is once you input all your data, not only will you get an organized financial report, income expense report, but you can also come back and search by load, right? You can filter by any of the load here, and then you can see, okay, did I make money per that load or not? So that's one great thing about this spreadsheet.